All right, we're back on the record. All jurors are present. The defendant and all counsel are present. All right, cross-examination. Yeah, you finished, correct?
I didn't know you finished.
I did.
Yeah, he's finished, so we're ready to go. Cross-examination.
Deputy Moses, now you spoke with Jane Doe 2 on 5/14, is that right?
Yes.
And that was one day after the incident?
Yes.
Okay. And you spoke with her in person, right?
I did.
And you wrote a report.
Yes.
And in that report, you're documenting all the important things that she told you, right?
Documenting the incident to refresh my memory.
Right. And she told you, when she was talking about the sexual encounter, she told you that this Kevin pushed the victim down on her back, lying on the passenger front seat. Is that right?
Correct.
And then Kevin inserted his penis into the victim's vagina. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So at this point, they're having intercourse. Kevin is facing Jane Doe 2, and they're having intercourse. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. And then, after a short while, Kevin pulled the victim out of the vehicle, bent her over, facing the passenger seat, and started to have sexual intercourse with her. Is that right?
Yes.
So we're picturing this. He takes her out of the vehicle, turns her so she's facing the vehicle and he's behind her. Is that right?
Yes.
And they have sexual intercourse, correct?
Yes.
Vaginal penile intercourse.
Yes.
Okay. Now, when he first did this, you said that Jane Doe 2 told you that when Kevin bent her over, he initially put his penis in her anus. Is that right?
Correct.
And Jane Doe 2 did scream, right?
Yes.
Okay. So that was right when he pulled her out of the car, turned her around, and came from behind. That was when he inserted the penis into the anus. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
And that caused her to scream.
Yes.
Okay, so after she screams, that's when she told you that Kevin said something like, "Stop screaming or I'll murder you," right?
Correct.
Okay. Then the victim, Jane Doe 2, told Kevin she wouldn't scream if he would stop hurting her, right?
Yes.
So at this point, there's been no strangulation, right? No choking.
Not that I recall.
Right. Kevin then had penile, vaginal, sexual intercourse with the victim from behind, right?
Yes.
So, fortunately, we'll picture this, but he takes her out of the car, right? He comes behind her. There is penile anus contact, correct?
Correct.
That causes her to scream. They have a conversation where she says, "I won't scream if you don't hurt me," right?
Yes.
And then he says, "If you scream, I'll murder you," right?
Yes.
And then they start to have intercourse, vaginal, penile intercourse, correct? From that same position.
Yes.
Okay. Now, then Kevin turned her back, around on her back again, in the passenger seat, and had continued to have vaginal, penile, sexual intercourse, right?
Correct.
Okay. So they've changed positions 3 times during this sexual encounter, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, as Kevin was continuing to have sexual intercourse with her, as she now faced him, right?
Yes.
Then he wrapped both of his hands around the victim's neck and strangled her, right?
Correct.
So that's after they were having sex from behind. He turned her back around. They were having regular intercourse. And while they're having the intercourse, Kevin puts his hands on her neck, right?
Yes.
Okay. Jane Doe 2 told you that she did not lose consciousness and she could still breathe, right?
She did.
Okay. However, she says that Kevin held her neck very tightly.
Yes.
And so he's holding her neck while he's having intercourse with her, right?
Correct.
Thank you. Nothing further.
Anything further?
No questions, thank you.
All right, can this witness be excused?
You may.
Mr. Watkins?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, thanks, Sarge. Have a nice day.
Thank you.
Next witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. People now call Christina Garvey.
All right.
You do solemnly state that the testimony you are about to give in the matter now pending before this court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Did you get that?
I'm sorry, I didn't get a response. I do. Okay, thank you.
If you would, please have a seat at the witness stand just to the right of the judge. And please watch your step.
You just go around the left side of the TV screen there, and you can have a seat right there on that chair on the witness stand.
May I retrieve the exhibits, Your Honor?
Sure. All right.
And if you would, please state your name and spell your first and last name for the record.
Okay. Christina Garvey, Christina Garvey.
Thank you.
All right, good afternoon, Ms. Garvey.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask if you could move that seat forward, and there's a microphone right in front of your face, a little closer. Just have to make sure we keep your voice up so all the jurors can hear your testimony, okay? The attorneys have some questions for you. We're going to start first with Mr. Owens. All right, Mr. Owens, direct examination.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Ms. Garvey.
Afternoon.
May I ask you how old you are?
41.
What part of town do you currently live in?
Encinitas.
Is it fair to say that you've spent some time previously in your adult life living on the streets of Encinitas?
Yes.
Are you currently experiencing homelessness, or have you found a place to stay?
I found a place to stay.
And I don't mean to ask you such personal questions, but I'm going to talk to you a little bit about an incident in May of 2018. Do you know a person, and I'm going to ask you to refer to her by the name of Jane Doe 2. Do you know who I'm talking about?
Yes.
May I approach you on?
Yes.
Showing you what's been previously identified as Court's Exhibit 2. Do you recognize that person? Is that Jane Doe 2?
Yes.
That's the person who we're going to talk about, okay? Can you tell me, before May of 2018, how long had you known Jane Doe 2?
Not for too long, actually. I want to say maybe 6 months, probably.
How would you describe your relationship with Jane Doe 2? Friends, acquaintances, whatever it may be.
She was an acquaintance.
How
A
often?
friend, I guess you can say.
How many times would you say that you spent time with her?
Not too much time, but
Do you recall Mother's Day on May 13th of last year?
no.
Do you recall a night where you borrowed Jane Doe 2's phone and you then saw her the next day?
Yes.
So that's the night that I want to talk to you about, okay?
Okay.
First of all, where were you when you were hanging out with Jane Doe 2 and you borrowed her phone?
At the Encinitas Transit Center.
Was that a place that you would regularly hang out during that time?
Yes.
During that time, were you sleeping on the streets primarily?
Yes.
Now, can you tell me who was with you and Jane Doe 2 that night when you had borrowed her phone?
It was
If
just,
you remember.
it was just her and I.
Do you remember if there were any other persons present?
No.
Okay. So then, in terms of that night and your recollection of it, I know we're talking, it's over a year ago, but is it fair to say that that you don't recall a lot of the specific details?
Yes.
Let me ask you about what you do remember, okay? So, was there a point in time where a car pulled up that Jane Doe 2 eventually got in?
Yes.
Do you remember seeing that car?
Yes.
What type of car was it?
It was like a like a Jeep, like a big Jeep.
Do you remember what color the big Jeep was?
I'm gonna say it was black.
Do you remember what type of Jeep it was?
No.
Now, did you see anybody inside the Jeep, if you remember?
No.
Did you recognize that Jeep at all?
No.
Did you know anybody who drove a Jeep like that?
No.
Tell me about how you parted ways with Jane Doe 2. What did you talk about? If you remember.
She, like, nothing really talk.
So tell us what happened when you remember seeing the Jeep pull up.
What was that? Can you repeat that again?
I can. Are you a little bit nervous?
Just a little bit.
I understand there's a lot of people that are watching you. There's a microphone in front of you. I know that there's cameras around, but I just need to ask you about what happened and what you remember that night, okay?
Okay.
Now,
And make sure you keep your voice up, okay?
Okay.
And maybe scoot the chair, does the chair get a little closer?
Yeah. There.
Well, just so you're closer to the microphone, okay? All right, and make sure you keep your voice up. Go ahead.
thank you. What do you remember happening after that black Jeep pulled up?
I remember seeing walk up to the Jeep.
Don't use her name, okay?
I'm so sorry.
Just,
Yes.
we're referring to her as Jane Doe number 2, all right? So,
Always.
go ahead.
That's okay, just go ahead. After you saw Jane Doe 2 walk up, what do you remember happening?
I just remember seeing her talk to whoever was driving.
Did you see the person she talked to?
No.
What do you remember happening after she talked to the person who was driving the big black Jeep?
She came back to where I was sitting and grabbed her rollabout suitcase and left.
When you say that she grabbed her rollabout suitcase, can you describe, if you remember, what type of case it was?
It's just a standard black suitcase handle that you pull.
Now, were you using her phone when she left?
Yes.
Did she offer you her phone?
Yes.
Is that something that you had done before, or was that the first time you had borrowed her phone?
I had asked her to borrow her phone and I had it on me.
Which, did she voluntarily let you have it?
Yes.
Was she a fairly giving person?
Yes.
Now, when she left, did you actually see what happened after she grabbed her things and walked away?
No.
What time of night would you say it was, roughly, as best you could remember?
I want to say around 9.
Is that your best recollection?
Okay.
Now, do you know how long she was talking to the person by the big black Jeep before she left?
Just a couple of minutes.
Did she say goodbye to you?
Yes.
Do you know if she said who she was going with?
No.
Did you ask?
No.
Do you remember that the vehicle was somewhat unique looking?
Yes.
You previously described it as very boxy and looked new.
Yes.
Did you think that it looked like a cross between a Jeep Rubicon and a truck?
Yes.
When was the next time that you saw Jane Doe 2 after she left in that type of car that you described?
The next morning.
Do you remember about what time it was that you saw her again?
It's fairly around 9 or 10 in the morning.
Where were you when you first saw her that next morning?
At the transit center again.
And tell us, what happened after you saw her again?
She told me some things that had happened to her.
How was she acting before she told you what happened?
She's very quiet.
Was that unlike her?
She's usually pretty quiet.
What was it about the way she was acting that caused you to question her about what happened?
She just seemed worried. She appeared worried.
What do you mean by that?
Just, it felt like there was, something that was on her mind.
And let me remind you to keep your voice up, okay? And again, make sure you take caution not to use her true name, okay? All right, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. Now, so she seemed worried, it seemed like there was something on her mind and she was being quiet. Is that fair to say?
Right.
Now, did you think that something was wrong?
Objection, relevance.
Overruled, I'll allow it.
Not really, not right off. Didn't think there was anything wrong.
When she was acting that way, what do you remember saying to her?
I don't remember.
Did you ask her what happened?
Not sure exactly how, it was because I had her phone.
And what
So
happened?
That's right, I had her phone, and so, that's how the conversation began with, I wish I would have had my phone.
Do
And
you
so,
remember her saying that?
yes, after I gave it to her.
And she said to you, when you returned her phone to her that next morning, she said to you, I wish I would have had my phone?
Yes,
You recall that?
yes.
Now, did you ask her what happened?
Yes, at that point, I believe I did.
When you asked her what happened, did she tell you that she couldn't tell you because he might hurt
Objection,
you?
it's leading.
Overruled is foundational, it's yes or no.
Can you repeat that again?
Did she tell you that she couldn't tell you because he might hurt me?
Objection, leading.
Sustained. You don't need to answer that question, you can rephrase.
Thank you. What do you remember her saying to you after you asked her what happened?
Objection, hearsay.
Overruled, you can give it, she can answer.
She said that she was taken somewhere, and,
Did she tell you what happened when she was taken somewhere?
she said that she was raped.
Did she tell you the name of the person who raped her?
I don't remember.
Did you speak to a detective with the San Diego Sheriff's Department from the Encinitas station a couple of days after you spoke to Jane Doe 2 on May 14th?
No,
You never spoke to a detective from the Sheriff's Department?
no, not a few days, no.
Okay. Now, regarding what happened, do you remember when a detective by the name of Frank Feliccia came and spoke to you on May 17th of 2018 at about 5 p.m.?
Yes,
That's what I'm asking you about when you
Okay.
spoke to the detective. Do you recall giving a statement to the detective from the Sheriff's Department on May 17th?
yes,
And I know we're talking now in court over a year afterwards. Is it fair to say that it was more fresh in your mind back in May 17th, 3 days after this conversation on May 14th?
I don't recall it being that soon, when I spoke to the detective.
All right.
Again, make sure you keep your voice up and you might want to lean forward a little bit and get closer to the microphone. You have a very soft voice and it might be hard for all the jurors to hear you, okay?
Okay.
All right, next question.
Thank you, Your Honor. When you spoke to the detective 3 days afterwards, was it fresh in your mind what Jane Doe 2 had said to you?
Yes,
Did you remember it better then than you might remember it today over a year later?
yes,
Were you attempting to be honest and accurate with the detective when he spoke to you?
yes,
Now, do you remember telling the detective, when it was fresh in your mind, what Jane Doe 2 had told you about what happened on May 13th?
what was the question?
I know it's difficult, that was a long question.
Yeah.
Do you remember telling the detective at that point what Jane Doe 2 had told you happened?
Yes,
Now, As you sit here today, do you have an independent recollection of the specifics of what she told you?
Not really.
Thank you, Your Honor. May I allow her to refer to the report of her statement based upon her lack of recollection at the present time under past recollection recorded?
Yeah, you can have, will assist you to take a look at it?
Would you like to look at that statement?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Your Honor, this is not a transcript of her interview.
Correct, it appears to be a report.
Now, taking a look at that report, have you had an opportunity to review that report before your testimony today already?
Yes.
And I don't know if I could think of a more intimidating environment to speak in public than one like this, but are you a little bit nervous today?
Yes.
I understand that. Everyone in the room understands that, okay? So let me ask you something else. Looking at that report, directing your attention to the bottom paragraph on page 2 that's in front of you, take a moment and review that paragraph to yourself, and once you've done that, go ahead and look up and let me know that you've done that.
Okay.
Okay. After having reviewed that report, do you remember making that statement to the detective?
Yes.
And when you spoke to the detective, did you recall some of the things that she had told you?
Yes.
Specifically regarding the man that she said had raped her, did she use a name?
Yes.
What was the name that she told you?
Kevin.
Did she have a last name, or was it just Kevin as far as she knew?
Just Kevin.
Did she say that she had seen him maybe 6 times before?
Yes.
Now, when you first talked to her and you asked her what had happened, did she tell you that she couldn't tell you because he might hurt me?
Yes.
Did you ask her again what happened to her?
Yes.
Can I object as hearsay again to all these statements?
Right, well, it's sustained if it's offered for past recollection recorded because there's been insufficient foundation laid under 1237, but it sounds like you're attempting to refresh her recollection with the statement?
Then the people would submit that she's refreshed her recollection and given her responses under present recollection refresh.
Okay, then overruled on those grounds.
Your Honor, I'd ask that she not be able to read from a document that she did not prepare.
If there's been insufficient foundation for past recollection recorded, she does not need to prepare for that, but that's not why there's insufficient foundation. But if she's refreshed her memory, we can take the statement away from her, which is now in front of her, so let's go ahead and take it away from her.
Thank you, Your Honor.
And if you need to refresh your memory at any time during the course of your testimony, you just let Mr. Owens know, okay?
Okay.
All right, so next question.
After she said she couldn't tell you because he might hurt me, do you remember asking her again what happened?
Yes.
Do you remember what she told you?
She said that she was raped.
Did she tell you who had done it?
Um,
Did she use a name?
No objection, hearsay, Your Honor.
Overruled.
just Kevin.
It comes in as a prior consistent statement.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Next question.
Did she tell you anything about what the person she knew as Kevin would do to her if she told anyone?
No.
As you sit there today, do you recall specifically what she said to you about what he would do to her?
No. She was,
Would it refresh your recollection to refer to the report of your statement from May 17th on that issue? Would you like to read it again?
no.
Okay. Would you like to just leave here?
No, that's, I'm fine.
All right. Let me ask, because I have to ask you some of the questions about that conversation. Are you telling me that she did not say that Kevin told her that he would kill her if she
Objection
told
is
anyone?
leading, Your Honor.
Your Honor, it's impeachment based on her statement.
Overruled, but you might want to rephrase the question without using a double negative, so go ahead and ask the question.
As far as you recall today, sitting here now, you don't recall whether or not she told you what Kevin would do to her if she told someone, is that right?
That's right.
Did she tell you that Kevin told her that he would kill her?
Yes.
Your Honor, just so the record's clear, I want to interpose a continuing objection to this entire testimony.
All right.
Inadmissible hearsay.
All right, the objection will be noted, we'll discuss it later, but it comes in under 791, and it appears as though he's laying the foundation for a prior inconsistent statement based on lack of memory, so it'll be allowed for that purpose.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Subject to a motion to strike well, we will discuss that after the jury leaves, but it meets the foundational requirements, so go ahead.
Now, when you were speaking to her, did she say that he forced himself upon her?
Yes.
Did she say that he threatened her,
No.
as far as you recall?
Yes.
Now, when you were speaking to the detective, were you attempting to tell him everything that you remember her having told you that night?
Yes.
And based upon your recollection today, is it fair to say that it's a little bit foggy?
Yes.
You do recall her having told you that a man named Kevin had raped her, is that right?
Yes.
And you did see her leaving on May 13th in a large, black, newer, boxy type Jeep.
Yes.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Cross?
I'm sorry.
Cross-examination?
Yeah, so Christina, how long have you said you only known her for a couple months before this incident?
Yeah.
When you say that, you have a yes?
Yes.
Okay, so then you said that at the time you were also on the streets,
Yes.
and so that's how you knew Jane Doe?
Yes.
Right. And you knew her just as somebody who was on the streets like yourself, right?
Yes.
You go out to, did you go to the community center for food?
Yes.
And then you would hang out at the, you would be at the bus stop and train station?
Yes.
Is it a fairly normal place for you all to be?
Yes.
And so, in terms of, are there a lot of people on the streets in Encinitas, or just a handful?
Just a handful.
Okay. You guys kind of know each other by sight or not by name,
Right.
right? That-
Well,
that's-
both.
Okay. And you sort of look out for each other, I take it?
Yes.
It's because it's not a safe place to be on the streets.
Right.
Right. So, on this particular, let me ask you this, before May 13th of 2018, right, had you seen this black vehicle, the Jeep thing that you're talking about?
Yes.
Okay. How many times had you seen it?
Not too many times, like once or twice.
Once or twice?
Mhm.
But you remember what it looked like,
Yes.
right? You remember it was a bright, shiny, kind of newer vehicle,
It was newer.
right? Expensive looking vehicle.
Yes.
You ever see the driver?
No.
Did you see Jane Doe talking to the driver on any occasions?
No.
Okay, so prior to May 13th, you'd never seen Jane Doe speaking to the driver of the black Jeep thing.
Right.
So how is it that you saw the Jeep thing in the first place, just driving around?
Right.
Did you see it? Did you see the Jeep ever stop at or near Jane Doe?
No.
Did it ever come near you?
No.
By the way, next to the train station, is there a bike store there, do you know?
Yes.
Right, and that's really close to the train station?
Yes.
So, on the 13th, you were there with your friend Dylan. Is that Dylan? Who were you there with? Oh, Mike, I'm sorry, Mike.
When I was where?
On the 13th of May, you're with Jane Doe and a friend of yours.
Yes.
That friend's name is Mike.
Yes.
And you know Mike from the streets also?
Yes.
You guys, what were you doing prior to being in the parking lot with Jane Doe?
What do you mean?
What were you doing?
I was just sitting there with her.
Okay, with Jane Doe.
Yes.
Okay, so were you with her? Did you go to dinner with her?
No.
You didn't go to dinner with her?
No.
You didn't celebrate Mother's Day with her?
No.
So when did she come to meet you? Or how did you guys get together?
On that night,
Yeah.
she was there already, and I came walking and saw her and sat with her.
Okay. No one's drinking anything?
No.
So you sat down, are talking to her, it's about what time?
It was evening, around 9.
Okay, it's dark already?
Yes.
Okay. And you said on direct testimony that she had with her a big wheelie suitcase.
Yes.
Okay, that's where she had her stuff in.
Right.
You recall that?
Right.
She didn't have like garbage bags filled with clothes or anything?
No.
So the car rolls up, you see your friend Jane Doe, she goes over to the Jeep, right?
Right.
Did it appear to you like she knew the person, if you know?
Yes.
So she went to the Jeep, you stayed where you were with your friend Mike, right?
He wasn't there yet.
He wasn't there yet.
No.
So it's just you stayed seated.
Yes.
Before she got up and ran and went over to the Jeep, did she say, hey, there's my friend, I'll be back?
No.
So she just got up and went over there.
Right.
Did the Jeep like honk a horn or anything like that?
No.
Did it flash its lights at you guys?
No.
Did he wave over for you guys to come over?
No.
So Jane Doe saw the Jeep and then she immediately got up and went to him.
Yes.
Okay. So and this is all within eyesight of you, right?
Right.
So how far away were you from the Jeep itself?
Not far at all.
Can you use something in the courtroom here?
I mean, yeah, the Jeep is probably right behind you.
Right behind me, or like where the rail is? Or
Yeah,
where
right
it's
where the rail is.
All right, for the record, that distance is 28 feet.
So from that distance, you have a pretty good view of your friend and the Jeep, right?
Right.
You can't hear what they're saying,
No.
but clearly, to you at least, you can tell that your friend knows the person in the Jeep.
Yes.
Okay, so then she goes back, well, when she went to the Jeep the first time, did she take her suitcase with her?
No.
Okay, so she went up without the suitcase, spoke to this person in the Jeep for, what, 5 seconds, 10 seconds?
Right.
Really short?
Right.
And then she came back really quick to you, didn't say anything to you about where she was going, right?
Right.
And then grabbed her big suitcase, rolled it out, and put it into the Jeep. Yes?
I didn't see her put it into the Jeep. I just saw her grab it.
Grab it, okay. But she walked back to the Jeep, she got into the Jeep, you didn't see the suitcase anymore, so it might have been in the Jeep, right?
Right.
And then she kind of drove away, right?
Right.
And you had her phone because you were using it. Okay, so there was nothing really out of the ordinary about that sort of event, was it?
No.
I mean, there wasn't anything that caused you any concern, you just still had her phone, that's all.
At that moment, right.
Okay, so then you go to the next day, right? And the next day is when you run into Jane Doe again.
Right.
And what time was it when you saw her?
I don't recall the time exactly. It was in the morning.
It was in the morning, okay? And you said that she's normally very quiet, right?
Yes.
Right, is she the type of person that goes out and screaming in the streets and,
No.
ranting and raving?
No.
No, so she's fairly quiet?
Yes.
Okay, so that morning she was fairly quiet,
Yes.
so that's kind of normal, right?
Right.
Okay. So did she volunteer this information to you, or did you say, hey, what happened to you? How did that happen?
She just appeared worried, like I was saying, and I had asked her what had happened.
Okay. And that's when she said something that, where she had her cell phone the night before, right? She told you that.
When I gave it to her.
Right. And then she told you that he took advantage of me. Do you remember those words?
Yes.
Okay, those are the words that she used. So
No, I don't remember her saying he took advantage.
Okay.
Not those words, no.
You did an interview with the police, right? You just read the report,
Mm-hmm.
so.
Sorry, is that a yes or a no? I'm sorry?
What was that?
Well, when you say mm-hmm or mm-mm, we don't know if you have to say yes or a no.
Oh, yes.
So the question was, you did an interview with the police, right? You just read the report? What's the answer, yes or no?
Yes.
All right, next question.
Okay, and so I asked you whether Jane Doe told you that, and I'm using a quote, he took advantage of me. Do you remember that?
I don't remember.
I'll show you, would be page 2 of the document that you just used to refresh your memory. And I want to direct your attention, I'll put you in paragraph 2. And if you read down to the bottom of paragraph 2,
Just read it to yourself.
okay, so now having read that, and you spoke to this officer really close in time to this event,
Right?
is that what you said to them?
I don't recall saying that.
Okay. So you are disputing that Jane Doe told you that he took advantage of me.
Okay, it could have been between he took advantage of me or he raped me. So he raped me.
Right, but you
I may have said that to the person that was interviewing me. He took advantage.
right, you said that
Very
you said that Jane Doe told you that the man took advantage of you. Those are the words that you used to the police officer.
Okay.
Isn't that true?
Yes.
Okay. Those are words you attributed to Jane Doe. Yes?
Yes.
Jane Doe also told you that that she had seen this man, Kevin, about 6 other times. That seem about right?
Yes.
And that she also told you that they had coffee. They, I mean Jane Doe and the man, had coffee on 6 different occasions.
Yes.
Okay. You remember that?
Yes.
Is that a yes?
Yes.
Okay. We need audible answers from you. If you just nod your head, that doesn't get into the court reporter's record. So you have to say yes or no.
Okay.
All right, next question.
And another thing that Jane Doe told you was that he, meaning the man who she was with the night before, made me wash myself with soap.
Yes.
Okay, you specifically remember that?
I do.
Okay. So, I guess after the assault, he said you need to wash yourself with soap.
Yes.
One moment again. Ask you this. How much contact did you have with Jane Doe after this event?
Not too much.
Not too much?
No.
As in, you were still on the streets, right?
Yes.
She was still on the streets.
Yes.
How long were you on the streets for?
Talking about after May 13th?
After May 13th.
Not sure. Not too much longer. I think 4 months.
So is this the extent of any real conversation you had with Jane Doe about this event?
What was that?
Is this pretty much the extent of the conversation you had with Jane Doe about this event?
Yes.
So after you had this discussion with her and advised her that she should call the police, you told her to call the police, right?
Yes.
How much conversation did you have with her after that? I mean, were there
Not much.
not much?
No.
Did you talk about the court proceedings?
No.
Did you talk to her about getting a lawyer?
No.
Did you talk to her about, you talked to her about calling the police, right?
Yes, to report it, yes.
Right, to report it,
Mhm.
right, but you didn't tell her about getting a lawyer.
No,
You didn't tell her about the guy in the Hummer, you know, the expensive Hummer, you didn't talk about that,
no,
because you didn't know the guy, right?
right.
So, and then finally, just back to where this all started, when the Hummer rolled up and Jane Doe went to the Hummer, she came back, she didn't even say goodbye to you, she just, it was real quick, right? She just grabbed her stuff and left.
Yes,
And that's when you were still on the phone, and so she really wasn't, I guess she was in a hurry.
right.
And then further.
All right, anything further?
Yes. The phrase that was just used by Mr. Carlos, that Jane Doe number 2 told you that he took advantage of me, those were your words to the deputy, right?
Yes,
Were the words that she used when you were talking to her, in fact, did she say something happened to her?
yes,
Did she say that she really could have used her phone last night?
yes,
Did she say that she could have used her phone because something bad happened to her?
yes,
When you asked her what had happened, did she say that she couldn't tell you because he might hurt me?
yes,
When you asked her again what happened to her, did she say that something bad happened?
what was that?
Did she say that something bad happened?
Yes,
Did you tell her that did you then ask her if he messed with you? And she responded, yeah, he did.
yes,
Did she tell you that she knew the guy, but that she really didn't want to talk about it?
yes,
Did she then use the word rape and say, in response to your further questioning, that Kevin raped her?
yes,
Do you remember her telling you that he would kill me, using that phrase?
It's asked and answered, Your Honor.
Sustained, you don't need to answer.
It's based on cross-examination, Your Honor.
It's still been asked and answered. The answer will remain from her previous testimony.
Didn't you tell the deputy that she didn't tell you that Jane Doe 2 did not tell you where she went, but that she was forced to have sex with this man?
yes,
Nothing further, Your Honor.
All right, anything further?
Just to clear up, so Jane Doe told you, these are her words, that he took advantage of you, correct?
yes,
Those aren't your words, you're not making those up, right?
right,
Those are the words that she spoke to you and you then relayed back to the detective.
right.
Thank you.
All right, anything further?
No.
All right, can this witness be excused? All right, thank you very much, Ms. Garvey, you are excused. Just walk around the TV set there and you can find your way out of the courtroom. Next witness?
People now call Detective Frank Felicia.
All right.
Raise your right hand. You do solemnly state that the testimony you are about to give in the matter now pending before this court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? If you would, please have a seat at the witness stand. And if you would, please state your name and spell your first and last name for the record.
Okay, Frank Feliccia, F-R-A-N-K-F-E-L-I-C-C-I-A.
Thank you.
All right, good afternoon, Detective.
Afternoon.
All right, direct examination?
Thank you, Your Honor. Detective Felicia, can you tell the jury what you do for a living?
Yes, I'm a detective with the Sheriff's Department.
What's your current assignment?
I'm a sexual assault detective.
Prior to your tenure as a sexual assault detective, did you work in a capacity of an area detective at the Encinitas substation within the Sheriff's Department?
I did. It was an area and juvenile investigations as well.
Did you assist with the investigation into a reported sexual assault that had occurred on May 13th, 2018, involving a woman who we're referring to as Jane Doe 2?
Yes, I did.
On May 17th of that day, did you in fact locate and interview a woman by the name of Christina Garvey at approximately 5 p.m.?
I did.
When you spoke to her, where did that take place?
It took place at the Community Resource Center.
Is that located in the coastal Vulcan area of Encinitas?
Yes.
Now, when you spoke to her, did you ask her about a conversation that she had had with Jane Doe 2 on the morning of May 14th, the morning after the reported rape?
I did.
Did you talk to her about the things that Jane Doe 2 had said to her?
Yes, I did.
When you talked to her about what Jane Doe 2 had told her, did she in fact relay the substance of that conversation?
To the best of her recollection, she did.
And at the time that you were obtaining that statement from her, did you in fact prepare a report shortly after receiving that direct statement?
Yes, I did.
And in the course of preparing your report, did you do so based upon the notes that you took contemporaneously with the taking of the statement from Ms. Garvey?
Some notes and audio recording.
And when you had in fact prepared your report, were there a number of times when you included quotations of specific statements that Ms. Garvey had given you?
I did.
Now, when you talked to her about what happened, did she in fact tell you that Jane Doe 2 had loaned her phone?
She did.
Objection, Your Honor, to cumulative.
Sustained.
Your Honor, as it relates to the failure of recollection of the last witness, the people would submit that that we would be able to elicit the testimony from this detective who received the statement itself.
All right, we will approach sidebar then and discuss it. On the record.